On behalf of the board of WEA Cymru, a very warm welcome to you and thank you for attending this launch. For the few of you who may not know me, I'm Maggie Dawson and I've got the great honour of being the first CEO of WEA Cymru. We're grateful to the Minister for Education and Skills, Hugh Lewis, for agreeing to host us in this historic building, which is actually only 10 years older than the WEA itself. Because of course we are in our 107th year. So this was built in 1987 as the headquarters for the Bute Dock Company, and then became in 1947 the administrative offices for the Port of Cardiff before becoming part of the estate of the National Assembly of Wales. The Minister's on a very, very tight schedule, so can only spare us 15 minutes, unfortunately, and our programme will need to work around him to some extent. So I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask the speakers to be somewhat flexible, if they will, and we're going to need to capture a photo opportunity while the Minister is here and just before he speaks. So there'll be a little pause while we do that, if you can bear with us with that one. Thank you. We have present today some of our key partners, as well as WEA members, learners and former students, council members from the different boards of the legacy organisations, and friends of the WEA staff, and of course the press and media. Despite the variety of people here, our celebration today is still essentially a fairly low-key event, since we're holding a more formal launch further on in the year in North Wales, with the Deputy Minister officiating at this point, once we've become more established. After all, the official merger between Coleg Harlech WEA North and WEA South Wales actually was only signed off on Friday. So this has been an incredibly short turnaround to get us to a position of sort of buttonholing the Minister for this date and being here. You have some background information in your pack as to the vision and mission, our aims and our principles, but also the benefits arising from the merger. Our merged organisation serves 14,000 learners across Wales. It's actually up since the original press release that we put out. I'd underestimated our reach. With the aim to reach over 20,000 next academic year. So we're not looking to be static, we're looking to grow even in our first year of being the merged organisation. As an average across the organisation, 45% of our learners are classed as deprived in some way or other, and in some of the counties, such as Blaenau Gwent, this figure rises to almost 90%. Our focus remains on providing second chance learning to adults in a community or workplace setting. Our new All Wales body will build on the good practice of both of the legacy organisations. We will stimulate innovation. We will support education as a basis for long-term strategies for social justice and social cohesion. We will promote community engagement and equalities. We will provide an excellent learning experience consistently across Wales. The learning process, which is the WEA way, is one which aims to be participatory and empowering, leading to a variety of outcomes relating to employability and qualifications, to skills development, to health and well-being, to critical understanding, to active citizenship and learning for learning's sake. Our speakers will no doubt elucidate further on these themes. On that note, may I introduce Rob Humphreys, the Chair of WEA Cymru and Director of the Open University in Wales, who was appointed by the Minister to lead us through the final stages of merger, which he's done with humour, tenacity and considerable generosity of his own personal time. Our other speakers for the morning, apart from the Minister himself, are Dr. Jeremy Gass, at the end, a member of the board of WEA Cymru and former chair of WEA South Wales, John Parry to my right, also a board member of WEA Cymru and the former chair of Coleg Harlech WEA North Wales. We are delighted to welcome Ruth Spellman in the front, the General Secretary and Chief Executive of the WEA in England and Scotland, and as a closing contributor, Professor Teresa Rees, the former President of WEA South Wales and former Pro Vice Chancellor of Cardiff University and a member of the Inquiry into the Future of Lifelong Learning. All our speakers are passionate about adult learning and are hugely supportive of our work and our particular WEA ethos. Can I hand over to Rob to guide us through the morning? Thank you.
Pnawn da, cwestiwn. Mae heddi yn ddiwrnod pwysig I addysg ydolion yng Nghymru. Ladies and gentlemen, today is a very, very important day for adult education in Wales. Indeed, I would say this is an important day for education and wider society in Wales. It has been my privilege to contribute in a small way to the merger of Coleg Harlech WEA North Wales and WEA South Wales over the last 6 or 7 months, and it will be my privilege to be the first ever chair of the governing body of WEA Cymru, and I can't say just how much of a privilege I feel that to be. I want to start with a couple of thanks, and apologies if this seems rather internally focused, but I would like to thank John Parry and Jeremy Gass, the chairs of the two predecessor organisations who've supported me and other colleagues on the shadow board over many hours, weeks, months in order to secure this merger, and they've each contributed in a very significant way to their respective organisations over recent years. Secondly, and I'll save some of this for later when the Minister arrives, I would like to thank the officials from the Welsh Government who have also supported the merger process with equal tenacity, as the word that Maggie used, in recent months, without whom we would not be here, got as far as this today. I have some remarks to make about the future later on, which I'll save until towards the end. And I must apologise in advance for my very bad cough today. Someone somewhere in Cardiff is carving a memorial stone which says he was sacrificed in the name of WEA Cymru, but there we are. It's a noble sacrifice that I'm making, ladies and gentlemen. But for now, can I introduce, first of all, Dr. Jeremy Gass, the chair of what was WEA South Wales, who's going to talk a little bit about both the past and, I think, the future. Jeremy.
So the title that John and I have been asked to speak to is The Route to Merger. On the face of it, this should be a simple task. However, it rather depends on how far back you want to go in history. And I thought it was worthwhile just considering a little bit about the early days of the WEA. Maggie talked about how when the WEA began here, just a bit before this building was built. The WEA began in England 110 years ago, and in a way, history is repeating itself today. That's because in 1907, the WEA South Wales district of what was then the UK-wide WEA was formed following a branch being set up in Barry, which was where the first WEA class took place in Wales. But 3 years later, in 1910, the South Wales district was changed to cover the whole of Wales. So we had a Wales district of the WEA. Now that situation lasted until the middle of the 1920s, or sometime in the 1920s. I was trying to find out a bit about this last night, and I picked up from my shelves the 75th anniversary publication of the WEA in South Wales in 1982. But unfortunately, Cled Phillips, who was writing an article in there, didn't explain exactly when in the 20s or why the decision was made to break up the Wales district into North and South Wales districts. So enough of the history, or the early history. Whilst today marks the culmination of 3 to 4 years of formal discussion between Coleg WEA North and WEA South Wales, the idea of merger was under discussion certainly in the 1990s before WEA North Wales merged with Coleg and it probably had happened before. My memory goes back certainly to the mid-1980s, but it was the 1990s where we had staff discussions and we had meetings between the voluntary members in North and South Wales, and the idea of coming together to form a national organisation was under discussion then. I remember also in 1999 Val Feld, who some of you will remember, who was the assembly member, one of the Swansea assembly members, saying to me, "Jeremy, it's time now that we've got the assembly that the two WAs came together. It's ridiculous that we've got two WAs in Wales. We need a national organisation. The WA must do something about it." I think she thought I should do something about it as well, probably knowing Val. So here we are, we've done it. I think Val would have been rather disappointed that it's taken us this long to get here. I just want to say a little bit about the process of merger. This has involved compromises being made by both parties to the merger, particularly in relation to our structure or system of governance. We came from two different traditions. Coleg WEA North had an all-appointed governing body, and in the south our governing body was all elected. This was something of a tension to begin with, and it's taken a while to reach a compromise position where now you'll see a piece in the pack which talks briefly about this. We have 9 appointed governors and 11 elected governors. Those elected governors will join us in March when we hold our first AGM. So at present we have the 9 members appointed who have been in the shadow board, and we will be working until the AGM when we'll be joined by a group of 11 elected members, as I've mentioned. I want to make some acknowledgements. Rob has already done a bit of this, but no harm to repeat it. I'd like to acknowledge the role of the Welsh Government in both stimulating us to get to where we are now through their policy of transformation in the further education sector, and for their significant contribution towards the cost of the merger. The civil servants who've been involved for their encouragement, sometimes their cajoling, and mostly their patience. Colleagues in WEA South Wales who have been involved in the discussions between the two organisations, 2 of whom aren't here today, Gareth Morris and Hugh Williams, former chair before me, and fellow members of the Shadow Board from South Wales, Viv Davis, who's here today, and Chris Franks, who gives his apologies. Fellow members of WEA South Wales Council, some of whom are here today, it's good to see you here. Thank you for the trust that you've shown us, your representatives on the Shadow Board, and for your ongoing and reasonably critical support. Also, the WA members who came in force to our extraordinary general meeting in October, 100% of whom gave their backing for merger. I'd like to thank Stephen Thomas, our clerk, for his work behind the scenes and his negotiations with lawyers on our behalf and scurrying backwards and forwards to get things signed and all the right pieces of paper in the right place at the right time. WEA staff from both North and South for your commitment to the process and the work that's gone in through all the staff working groups towards the merger. Fellow members of the Shadow Board, and especially our independent chair, Rob Humphreys, for his skill and commitment in steering us to where we are now. And finally, Maggie Dawson for her leadership and tireless work rate. Dwi'n edrych ymlaen at gymdaithas newydd sy'n ymateb I flaenoriaethau Llywodraeth Cymru fel sgiliau sylfaenol a sgiliau am waith, ond sydd hefyd yn cefnogi yr iaith Cymraeg a'r diwylliant Cymreig, hybu cyfiawnder cymdeithasol a dysgu am ddemocratiaeth. Diolch yn fawr.
The title that Jeremy and I were given was The Route to Merger, and I was thinking about this come in on a route this morning. And of course, those of us who, it's quite easy to come into Cardiff on the M4 or on the train, or come into North Wales on the A55. But those of us who also have to do the A470 sometimes are well aware of the potholes and bends that occur on that road and on the Cambrian coastline. Mae yna buwch ar y lein fel arfer yna. So the route hasn't always been as smooth and as tarmacked as it should. And for that reason, I think we should all be doubly grateful that we have not only made the journey today, but that we have all arrived at the point that we are in. And of course, here we are in this building, built as a result of the labours of the people of Wales, perhaps in a more prosperous, but still in a very difficult era. And they are the people, and their descendants are the people that our new organisation, I hope, is going to help in the future. As Jeremy said, Coleg Harlech WEA North, it does have only a short history because it comes from two great institutions with a longer history, the WEA and WEA North, and Coleg Harlech itself, that had an international reputation in the field of adult education. And it's much to be hoped that WEA Cymru is going to develop and continue and enhance the great reputation of both institutions. The old motto of Coleg Harlech was Arvo pen bid bont. He who wishes to be a leader, let him be a bridge. Or roughly that anyway. And of course, like most bridges, they decay sometimes and they need repairing and what have you. Just like the old bridge over Moor Havren, a little bit to the east. And so that bridge that was set up with some idealism at the time and with the inspiration of Tom Jones, that bridge has now need of repair and a new bridge is needed for Wales. Now we have a bridge, if I can strain the metaphor, we can have a bridge from North to South Wales. Every country has its North and South, and it doesn't affect them. It will in no way affect us. The new bridge across Wales will be a bridge of education and culture, and those two things, and history, and those things bring people together as a nation. The whole point of Workers' Education and the Workers' Education Association is to help the people in our society, to help our country, and anyone who lives in our country to gain education and prosperity. And that's what I hope is going to be achieved through the new organisation, and I'm sure that it will.
It's wonderful to be here, and Rob, thank you so much for those kind remarks. I do want to congratulate you on this journey, which is a key milestone today, as you are going public on this union. And it is so important that you do that for all the reasons that have already been stated. And I'm really looking forward to working with WEA Cymru. We have so much shared vision between England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. And that does not stop us doing things in our local communities that make sense for those communities. But we need to build together on the strengths of the WEA. And I'm always struck by the synergies between our vision, our purpose and our objectives. We want to build a world which is equal, democratic and just. And we don't want to just do it in England. We want to do it in Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, respecting the cultures and values of those different countries. Some of those shared agendas involve becoming the leading provider for adult community learning. That is something we want to do in England, and it's something we want to do in Wales. And it's something that the very history and achievements of the WEA suggest to me is perfectly possible. At the moment, there is a dearth of high-quality adult community learning provision, and we can fill that need. Secondly, both organisations are really seeking to influence and persuade governments of whichever persuasion about the importance of adult learning. Let me give you one statistic. A recent OECD survey showed that in other countries in Europe and in Scandinavia, where they've got higher wages and higher employment, 60% of the adult population is participating in part-time education. In the UK, guess what the figure is? It's 20%. There is a 40% gap. Now that ought to be of concern to us as we're looking at the skills people need and the education they need to meet the challenges of the modern economy. So we do have a real issue and we have a real capability within the WEA, and we are going to tap into that now in a very significant way, and we're also going to reach across those borders, north and south, but also with England, Scotland and Northern Ireland. Our organisations are committed to removing the barriers to adult learning, and there are many of them, and to creating and enhancing life chances all the way through life, not just at school. Because as we know, people are having to retrain and redevelop their skills on average 5 times during their lifetime. How are they going to do that without access to adult education? And we have a serious commitment to enriching civil and cultural life. Life is not just about earning bread. Life is about job satisfaction. Life is about having a life and being a part of a community. And we need to revive those values and do something about the increased decimation that has happened around our communities in Britain, whether in Wales, England, Scotland or Northern Ireland. And it's because of the shared agendas and the rich history of the WEA, we have set up something called the WISE Group, very appropriately named. The initials stand for Wales, Ireland, Scotland and England. And you'll notice that Wales is the first to be mentioned. And as chief executives of those organisations, we'll be working with Maggie and across those divisions in order to develop joint partnerships, exchanges of ideas, knowledge exchange, tutor exchange, really learning from each other and actually developing real partnerships that are going to serve us well for the future. Not only to maximise current resources, but also potentially to help us with our bids for new resources from the National Lottery and from the European Social Fund. We have been able recently to consolidate our relationships in a number of bids, and that will help us all. We all need more resources because the size of the challenge is so big. So in my opinion, and I'm sure in yours, there has never been a more important time to invest in adult education. In some of our communities, unemployment now stands between 20 and 30%. That's a shocking statistic. Absolutely shocking. And yet we have somehow grown used to it. I want to say to you all today that we should not grow used to it. We've got to change that. And that's why one of our themes is to really develop the employability skills of individuals, young people and adults, so that nobody has the misery of being unemployed. Also, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that we've been able to publish data recently showing a huge and strong negative correlation between low incomes and health and well-being. So it's not just your income opportunities that suffer, it's your health and your well-being. You know, adult education is one of the best government investments there is because it plays to every agenda. It produces jobs. It produces people who can sustain themselves in jobs. It produces higher expectation within the family unit. And it produces people who are healthy and well and able to go out there and be proud of what they're achieving. So adult education is a great government investment and it plays right across the Welsh Assembly government agenda. And I do congratulate Hugh Lewis and the team that have been responsible for recognising that fact and building the strengths of the WEA so that we can actually move forward and seriously tackle some of those agendas. As we look forward, what does the crystal ball say? Well, we're going to need more education and more training. We need to keep people in jobs, and we need to meet the challenges of the knowledge economy. We need, as Rob knows from his work on the OU, access to part-time higher education, and adult education will be a key part of the mix. We need more and better provision for disadvantaged groups, and there are lots of them, and we know where they are, and we know how to reach them. The WEA has that magic formula of being able to reach people in their community with learning that doesn't look like medicine, and that is really, really important. And of course we need to recommit ourselves to family learning and lifelong learning. Do you remember we were all talking about lifelong learning in the halcyon days of the 1990s? We need to bring that concept back. There's nothing more crucial to our survival. And I am looking forward to working with the WEA Cymru. I know the marriage that you brought about is not a marriage of convenience. It's based on strong common purpose. That's what produces enduring friendships, enduring colleagues, and enduring success. Strong common purpose. And we share that with you. As Robert's already said, my roots are in this area. I was born and brought up in Pontypool. My grandfather was a student and then a tutor with the WEA. And when I was 15, I had the great privilege of attending a course in adult citizenship at Coleg Harlech. And I never had such a good time in my life, and I still remember very much what I learned on that course. So you see, I have got a strong personal commitment to helping to make this work and succeed. It's a delight to be here, and again, I just wanted to finish where I started, with Clonga Fachiadau and Diolch yn fawr.
Chroeso I bawb I lansiau swyddogol Cymdeithas Addysg Gweithwyr Cymru. Ar ein newydd yn dilyn uniad ddau sefydliad sef Coleg Harlech, Cymdeithas Addysg Gweithwyr Gogledd Cymru a Cymdeithas Addysg Gweithwyr De Cymru, dechrau'r mis. Good afternoon, and thank you, Rob, for that introduction. I hope I can live up to it. And thank you all for inviting me here today for the official launch of the Workers' Education Association Cymru, following the recent merger of Coleg Harlech WEA North and the Workers' Education Association of South Wales. I really am genuinely and personally delighted to be here today to join you in celebrating what is an important landmark and in looking forward to what undoubtedly heralds an exciting future for adult education and training throughout Wales. This merger represents a positive commitment to the future of adult learning in Wales, as Rob has mentioned. It provides an opportunity to enhance teaching and learning in the community and creates a viable all-Wales adult education and skills organisation, whilst retaining and strengthening the internationally recognised WEA brand. As such, this merger is a very important one in the Welsh Government's transformation agenda, and I anticipate further developments in this area as the months go by. I was particularly pleased to receive the invitation to be present here today from the new board. While, as we all know, the merger process has sometimes proved difficult, it is clearly evident that both institutions have placed the requirements of learners, businesses and communities, in other words, the people they serve, at the very heart of their considerations. They have made every effort to conduct the process in as seamless a way as possible to achieve the best outcome, opening new opportunities and synergies for learners. The two organisations have a proud and justly celebrated history of delivering adult education in the community. They share a similar second chance ethos when it comes to adult learners, although the structures and mechanisms for achieving their goals have been different over time. Both organisations have steadfastly upheld the traditions of adult education, adhering to the vision of the wider Workers' Education Association, while paying due regard to the language, culture and diversity of communities in Wales. In championing vocational education and training, they have enabled adults to return to learning and fulfil their potential and stimulated individual development. The WEA also provides opportunities for socially and educationally disadvantaged adults in communities and workplaces across Wales to access learning outside of the traditional education provision, promoting citizenship, cultural enrichment, social justice, health and general well-being. And in doing so, they change lives. These are the characteristics which closely attune with those aspects of Welsh Government policy that Rob has touched upon. This merger will take the best from each, enhancing the delivery structure of community-based education to meet the needs of a 21st century Wales. Indeed, from very early on in the merger process, commitments were made which can now be realised and honoured. In looking forward to the future, of course, we do not forget either the past achievements or the rich history that has gone before us. I see this as moving us to the next chapter and ensuring the traditions of equity, social justice and fairness that are at the heart of both organisations, that are hardwired, I hope, into the new and not least of the list of factors in importance, the new and financially sustainable body that we now have. As the unified WEA Cymru moves forward, I congratulate you sincerely, both organisations, on the significant achievements that you've made to date. Achievements which have been reflected in the positive response to the merger, which clearly demonstrates the breadth of support for the new organisation and the opportunities it will offer to engage with learning providers and communities throughout Wales. The key aim of this merger has always been to secure the long-term viability and future development of adult learning in Wales, with a focus on maintaining improvements in the quality and standard of provision, while at the same time achieving efficiencies and improved value for money. By maintaining that focus, the new body can continue to influence and improve learning outcomes, boost skill levels, and reduce economic inactivity. This is a joined-up commitment to social engagement, to community and workforce learning and their development. And it's especially welcome in light of recent challenging times for Wales and their effects in particular on rural areas. Interesting word, that word, challenging, that you're hearing uttered by every politician at every opportunity. It's a euphemism, of course. You could read for the word challenge a number of more direct terms, I suppose, but in many cases it does involve a lot of hard graft and a lot of headaches. We conduct our business in an atmosphere which isn't necessarily conducive to the way we would like to run things here in Wales, and we are not necessarily, in all circumstances, able to fulfil our ambitions when we have, let's say, a different philosophy. Could I take the opportunity here to personally congratulate the newly united association in Wales and the partners and colleagues that make up those organisations, that association, for your vision and your drive in creating a viable and vibrant organisation. And I and my colleagues in the Welsh Government look forward to working with the WEA Wales in continuing to ensure an exciting and rewarding future for adult education and training throughout this small country. So it does give me great pleasure to acknowledge the dedication and effort that's been put in to achieve what we have come here today to celebrate, and to wish the new organisation and everyone associated with it the very best for the future of adult education in Wales. These are challenging times, and it will take every ounce of our determination and imagination here in Wales to deliver socially just solutions to the challenges that face us. But within that, and at all times, we will remember the kinds of values that have bound together the WEA, I believe since 1907, now in Wales, and that have delivered so much in terms of transforming life chances in communities up and down this country. I represent a little corner of Wales in the former coalfield area, Merthyr Tydfil and Rhymney, and I am well aware, more than aware, of the effects that the WEA has had over generations in terms of lifting the aspirations and life chances of the people in a community like that. And they have never done that as some kind of missionary organisation that parachutes itself into a community and attempts to transform it. Because the WEA has always been of the community. It's been a democratic organisation that has as much grown out of communities like mine as it has been a national organisation. Never separate, always integrated of the community. Let's continue with that philosophy and with that commitment, and we will never let this particular flame go out. Thank you.
I want to congratulate the team on this. I have survived 3 university mergers. I know about merger discussions. I have to remember a big issue for us in one of these mergers was that one university paid higher or demanded higher library fines than the other. We had to have a special subcommittee to sort that out. So what I can say though is as a result of these mergers, the opportunities that are available to people that weren't there before, the new colleagues that they find, the new ways of doing things, has been very, very enriching, and people have not looked back. And I feel the same will be true with WEA Cymru. We have fantastic values, really thought through values that have underpinned the WEA throughout its activities throughout the United Kingdom, but really reaffirmed here in the document that's setting up WEA Cymru. And I think you've got a fabulous team, I have to say, even though I'm being disposed of in the process. I do want to say a word, though, about learning through life, if I may. I think it is extremely important. And it is, I think, one of many reports that I've been involved in that's come through with fabulous, fantastic recommendations, which unfortunately have not all been implemented immediately. Now, if only they had, we would have been in a much better place on all sorts of fronts. But I just want to remind you of 3 of the things that it said, I think. And the first thing is, we really need to enable people to take control of their own lives. And I think so, you know, we need reminding of that, the helplessness that a lack of education, a lack of ability to purchase and participate gives you. That's numbing. It's like dying inside, not being able to participate in that way. So enabling people to take control of their own lives, I think, is really, really important, and that's something that the WEA does. The second thing, and this really is more for politicians, I think, and others, is if we think about the amount of money that's put into post-compulsory education and training, and we look at the age groups that it's focused on, it's overwhelmingly in the late teens, early 20s, absolutely overwhelmingly. And yet we know as skills develop and technology develops and people's position in life changes, people need lifelong learning. And if we were to redistribute some of that resource, even slightly, it could make a huge difference. So we need to rebalance resources fairly and sensibly across the different life stages. And the third one I think I just want to mention is really about a citizen's curriculum. What sorts of skills do you need to be able to engage in society in a rich way? And we identified 4 capabilities: financial, health, digital, and civic, to be a citizen. If you have skills in all 4 of those areas, you're well on the way to taking control over your own life, making decisions about your own future, and indeed helping others. And I look at my own capacity in terms of these skills, and I'm sadly lacking in many of them, particularly on the digital front. I now work as a grandmother a day and a half a week, and I have to say my grandchildren express frustration that I can't get the Peppa Pig channel up quickly enough and zoom past the adverts. I'm found wanting in this way, and in all sorts of other ways actually on the digital front. So those capabilities we need really to be able to participate in order to be making informed citizens. I've engaged in adult education. I was a very green tutor in Anisabul in the club there. I was trying to teach a sort of Marxist history of the valleys of South Wales on one side of a curtain, and on the other side of the curtain there was a boxing class with sound effects punctuating my incisive analysis from time to time. And I remember the first student that came, being in my early 20s, you know, he could have been quite young, you know, just in his 70s or something. He was a bit weak on his knees, and I finally got him sitting down. Whew, it was obviously a big effort to come to this class. But I was a bit concerned because he seemed to be the only one in my class, and I wasn't sure that I was quorate, really. And I said, do you know if anybody else is coming? Oh yes, he said, getting his breath back. He said, my dad will be along in a minute. And he was. This was a chap in his 90s. So a few more souls turned up, fortunately, and I began my analysis of what had happened in 1926 and all of this. But of course, they knew far more about it than I did, because they had been there and they had lived through it, and they had spent a lot of time reading Marx and various other authors. And so they would start saying, oh yes, I remember that. And then they would start talking. And in the end, these classes were me going in, introducing a topic for about a sentence and a half, and then taking notes while they taught me about the subject that I was there supposedly as an expert on. So I found being a tutor was life-changing. I'm not sure what good I did to them. But I think it is very important to keep to those values and to put that energy into focusing on them. The reason I say this is, I think the older you get, you think of all the things you've done and you think, well, which of those things were really important? It's terribly easy to waste time and energy on things that don't really matter. And therefore, it is extremely important for this new organisation to do, as its new chair has so eloquently and in an inspiring way, I think, charged us to do, is to focus on the values and to focus on delivering on a very, very important agenda to change people's lives. Thank you very much.
May I thank everyone for coming today, particularly those who've travelled a long way. Thank all our speakers, and perhaps most especially Minister Hugh Lewis for finding time to share his thoughts with us today. May I wish you a safe journey home, and hopefully I'll see you at the formal launch at Carnarvon on 1st of May, isn't it? Yes. Diolch yn fawr iawn.